Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager 23, episode 36. Last episode, Monza took a bad pace. We were 19th. We were at the back, but a good strategy, and we managed to get 12th. Then at Singapore, the same thing was happening. We were right at the back of the grid. I think we were running 17th, and really we were only ahead of one car via mistake. But a good strategy once again put us in a strong position, and we rolled to the back, took a risky pit stop after a VSC situation or a safety car situation, put on the softs where everybody else opted for mediums or hards, and made all the way up to 11th. Right as those tires were fading and we were no longer going to make progress, there were still 6 laps to go. It was going to be a dangerous final 6 laps, but we weren't at the danger zone yet. The Sargent spun out. He crashed. He destroyed the car. Not only were most of the aerodynamic parts needing replacement, but all 3 engine components taking a huge hit. The engine itself dropping about 20%. The ERS was brand new. It lost 45%. The gearbox was also a very good one. It was probably 85% at that point in that race. 60% loss. Huge losses. Now, fortunately, none of it is totally destroyed, but the reality is none of them are race-worthy anymore. They're practice-worthy only, and he has no other race-worthy parts. So we're going to need 1, maybe even 2 more sets to try to get to the end of the season. The reality is we're probably going to take 1 out of the necessity and make it work and use crap parts the last couple of races, because we're not going to be competitive anyway. We were already struggling at the back, and yes, we were finding a way to be competitive using alternate strategies to our benefit, but as the car gets slower, it's going to be less and less effective, and we're not scoring points. I guess it really doesn't matter. We're going to be pushing quickly through, but this is a $10 million mistake that Sargent has made, and it's a costly one because at the moment we only have 11 million. It's going to take quite a while to pay that off. I mean, that's the income of a few races for his mistake.
Konnichiwa from the Suzuka circuit in Japan. The home of Honda, Suzuka is an old-school circuit with high-speed straights and tight turns through the S's. At 130R, the track crosses over itself, then loops back around, giving drivers a sweeping expanse of track to challenge them.
Brand new engine top to bottom for Logan Sargent, still only managed to qualify P19, and particularly disappointing because there are 12 drivers up and down the grid. More than half the grid has taken at least a penalty for this race weekend. Florsch, it's a big opportunity to go forward. Downside for her is there's already 3 cars just ahead of her that aren't carrying penalties. So depending on the amount of grid penalties involved, a lot of the cars that are ahead of us probably still won't be behind us. I would imagine Florsch will be gaining at least a few positions for the start of this race. I mean, obviously Sargent's going to be behind her, but I doubt that it's going to be much higher than 16th or 17th. If we're lucky, though, she could be starting 11th or 12th.
We're all good to go here in Japan with 53 laps around the Suzuka circuit. The Williams driver, their attention purely on the race now.
They line up for their 50th F1 start here today. Can they get a decent result, I wonder?
But let's see what today has in store, shall we? The drivers are warmed up, they're ready to go here at the Japanese Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
And we're racing. We're ready to speed things up right away. It's a day of intermediates throughout. Oh, and Sargent makes a mistake. He was already last, but he runs wide on the first lap of the race here. Not a good start for him. And Florsch, meanwhile, only starting from P17. So it's as I feared, as I expected, and for now she's still P17. We are lap 3 though. Time to cool these tires down and get on with the program. Intermediates all day long, so we're looking at a one-stopper situation, and as we're on intermediates all day long. I've aggressively underfueled a bit more than normal. 3 laps worth. Okay, temperature is coming down, but that's a bit of extra wear for sure. Florsch hanging on to P17. There's no DRS, so nobody's going to get those easy overtakes on us. But it's going to be a fast day. It's going to be a slow day. We're going to be at the back. Fast and slow at the same time. Yes, oxymoron, it is. Fast, because I'm going to do this. Times 16 speed. Slow, because that's going to be our relative pace in the car.
How's the conditions?
Wow, this was unexpected. Track is dry. I don't suspect that anybody's going to be changing. We'll keep an eye out. Yeah, no one's changing. The little overheating we had was not a problem. No changes in position. The good news on that means Florsch is still P17. She's a little off the pace. I mean, Zhou has pulled away a bit, but she's just fast enough that Sonoda is caught behind her. Sargent finally gets around to Prix, and we are no longer in last. Big lock up there from Florsch, though. That's going to drop her to last. Into the final chicane. Tough braking zone there, especially in the wet. And then she ran wide just a moment later. Let's hope she doesn't wreck the car as a result of this. Loss of confidence. I'm assuming her confidence is rather low. It's medium. It's not non-existent. Didn't take a big hit on the tire wear, though, as it was in the wet. Lock up in the wet doesn't hurt us bad. And we're 20 laps in. Running 18th and 20th. It was nice to see Florsch part of the mix, but you can see how far off the back she is now after back-to-back mistakes. I want to get to the halfway point before we pit, and we're coming up on that now. Show pits. Lap 26. I think we'll go for a lap 27 kind of stop. Florsch, by the way, is now P19, but that's because DeVries pit came out behind her. Giovinazzi, Zhou have both already pit and are behind us. Otherwise, we're really at the back of the grid. Sainz has already pit. Russell has already pit. And a number of cars are going to pit this lap, including both of my drivers, as Florsch is overtaken there. Sargent up in P16 all over the back of Sonoda through the final chicane, and he'll peel off down onto pit road. So just hope for 2 good, clean pit stops today. 2.56, not bad. And Florsch on pit road behind us. Plenty of time for the double stack. Oh, we have our first problem. First problem of the season, 6.478. And that sucks because that's going to add fatigue to the driver, to the pit crew, which is going to make it that much harder to manage what they do the rest of the year. It's one of the first mistakes we've had of the season. Now that bumps us down to 19th and 20th for the time being. Already down to 1.9 on the negative, so the aggressive 3-lap underfueling has ultimately just meant that we're lighter for the whole race compared to everybody else. That's all it really has done for us. Sonoda comes out behind us, so at least. But gap on leader is definitely a field spread. Florsch is not too far off from getting lapped. Gasly is leading this race right now. Guessing Gasly is pitting now. Verstappen into the race lead. But Florsch still not far off from that situation of getting lapped. Sargent up to P17 as Albon comes out behind us. We're 51 seconds down. Florsch with a 3rd mistake on the day, runs wide. She's got good adaptability. She should be good in the wet, but she is just struggling today, period. She's having a bad day, low confidence. Adaptability is not about wet conditions. It's about transitions between damp, full wet, and dry conditions. Meaning, if you're on the wrong tire and you're in between, that's the stretch. So if it's 0.9 and it's considered dry, but you're still on intermediates, she's going to be particularly slow at that stretch. That's how the game handles that one. So it's not just how you do in the wet. It's how you do in the various transition periods. Sergeant, meanwhile, still P17. Flourish is now a lap down. Fuel's already almost good, and the race is already almost over. It's lap 41 of 53. We have caught Zhou. Track just went dry. Is it going to stay like this? I remembered the conditions. We got DRS because because it got down to 0.93. They opened DRS, and as a result, Sargent moves up to P16. We're ahead of one team. We've got two other teams back here with us. Not huge gaps. I mean, we're talking about 11 seconds from Botas back to Sargent, but he got held up enough times. He's off the pace enough that makes no difference. And with 10 laps to go, fuel is not an issue at all, though it's still slightly negative for now. I remember we were really kind of we were on Florsch's pace there for a while. It backed up Sargent as much as everybody else. So that engine thing hurt him that much more. Otherwise, he would have started from P17. She would have started from P18. We wouldn't have benefited from all those penalties that everyone took because the cars just ahead of us also didn't have penalties. But he would have been ahead of Florsch and therefore not caught up in her slow-moving situation. All over the back of DeVries here, and we pulled away from Sonoda. Can we go forward? We'll go on board with Sargent as he tries to make a move on DeVries. After that, it's 8 seconds to the next car, so I doubt we'd be going forward at all. Conditions are just on the side of damp, which means we're not going to get DRS here. But do we have enough pace? We do have enough pace to go up the inside, but we don't quite get alongside him, and so he cuts to the apex on turn 1, and that's that. Oh, bad exit, but oh, we got a good run. But we're holding off. Okay, we're coming up on Spoon. We've cooled things off. We've got some extra fuel. We're gonna start pushing here. And then we're going to try to attack coming out of the chicane. He's going to defend to the inside. He knew we had the pace this time. Into the braking zone? No. Out of the chicane this time. Starting to overheat already. He's going to go to the inside again. Let's see how we can get that run, but we don't have any battery. I think we're going to have to go light. Gio's been backing up towards us. It was about 9 seconds back. We're now just 5.5 seconds behind him, where DeVries is, that is. But now we've got to get back on DeVries and be able to make a final push. We're at 50%. He's at 39. Oh, we've got a real advantage here. DeVries pit very early. But we're now a full second behind him. Deploy. Okay, right up on the back of him, and right at the time we need to be on the back of him. Go to the inside with a little battery help. That was the difference. We go up the inside, and it's P15. Verstappen takes the win ahead of Perez. Mercedes having a strong day. Perez and Ocon, 2 and 4. Then the Aston Martin's Ferrari, only 7-8 today. 3 mistakes hurt her day, otherwise she was actually running ahead of cars for quite a while there before the first mistake, followed immediately by the second mistake. Sargent, nice little finish there to get around DeVries and take P15, but that's all it was, P15. Overall weekday. On to the next one. I had voted against it, but it's happening anyway. Large majority vote in favor of a financial structure for end of season price share. There you go. There's the word I was looking for. Oh, and there it is. If only I was reading it and not looking at the camera. Anyway, end of season price share, more in favor of a top structure, but at least the last place team will remain stationary at 7%. It just drops down the midfield a little bit. A full percent drop for 5th, to give an extra 0.5% to 4th. 1.2% to third, 1.2 for second, and an extra 0.5 at the top. So second and third are much more heavily rewarded. Fifth is more heavily penalized. Sixth is more heavily penalized, and a little bit less so at the very bottom.
Our calendar brings us to the Middle East this weekend for the Qatar Grand Prix. Making its debut as a Formula One track in 2021, Lusail International is Qatar's Grand Prix circuit. Designed initially with motorbike racing in mind, drivers will need to adopt that two-wheeled mentality of speed and maneuverability if they want to succeed here. The sprint today sees the drivers tackle 19 laps of the Lusail International circuit.
It's a fast track here in Qatar. Expect to see the pack fight it out, trading places to improve their chances of scoring more championship points.
This is it, a dash to the finish line. We're ready for the sprint here in Qatar. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Sprint race. I expected things to go a little differently than this off the start. I thought a lot of teams would have opted for the mediums, as the softs are going to really struggle to finish the race. As a result, I'm not pushing in the first 2 laps. I'm going to save those tires by giving a lot less energy into them to give us a little more for the race as time goes on. Also, unusual for a sprint, I've opted to underfuel by a lap because the sprint race is short enough that it's hard to recover that. But I figured, what do we have to gain from going hard anyway? It's going to be easier to save. And so far, so good. Sargent, P18, where he started, but hanging on to it, challenging cars ahead of him. Everybody's on the softs, and really the reason why I picked the softs, even though they didn't look like they were going to make it to the end, was that I didn't want to burn our set of mediums. I want them for the race proper, to have them available. So Sargent, who's already up to P17 ahead of Albin, is all over the back of DeVries and challenging.
So what
Lap 3, okay,
Copy.
go neutral.
Pack's on the
And
right side
now we
now.
speed things up. We're going to have to lift and coast here at some point. But we've definitely saved the tires a little bit, as the 2 Ferraris are the fastest here this race weekend. Red Bull only 5 and 6 right now. We are definitely recovering some fuel at maybe a 10th a lap, which could just about get us right on fuel by the end of this, which means fuel recovery is pretty good here. Sargent P16 ahead of Sonoda. Florsch only 2 seconds behind, by the way. DeVries runs wide and came back out ahead of us. We overtook him, he overtook us. We've been back and forth since. And we do eventually get around him into P15. Gaining on Gio, and we get within a second. That's going to close us up on him and get it further away from DeVries. Florsch gets around Zhou after he spins, but she was only 3 seconds back of Zhou a moment ago. And we've got a big crash. VSC. This is going to take care of the fuel. It's going to take care of the fuel. No problem for us. Gio crashed on turn 2. Good result there.
The second corner.
Ooh. He was just ahead of us when he lost it there.
There's the contact.
All the
I
way to
imagine
the
their
wall.
confidence will have taken a knock.
He's out of the race. So Sargent up to P14, Florsch up to P18.
There's a
Fuel's going to be
BSC
right here in a moment.
close to
Going
the
to help us
delta.
preserve those tires. How are we doing compared to everybody else? Oh, much better. Look how much we saved by not pushing in those early days. No wonder we suddenly looking strong. And we go green once again just after the start-finish line for us, starting lap 16. So very much coming up on the tail end of the race now. Fuel is good. Tires are at 41%. They're definitely not good. But like I said, the falling off the cliff thing is mutual. Everybody's falling off that cliff, and we are definitely a good 5, 6, 7% better off than a lot of the cars around us. We also have the ability to try to make some sort of push here, but what push is there to make? Right, that 2 seconds to gain, not really worth it. I think we're just going to try to see this out unless we suddenly find ourselves up on the back of Bottas and Magnussen. Then we'll try to go forward, but we're already setting ourselves up for a P14 finish. And Florsch ahead of Zhou by 4 seconds. Looks like she's going to finish ahead of a car, even though they spun and got behind her. She was only a few seconds back, and they only lost 7 or 8 seconds. So she is beating a car mostly on merit today, despite us having the slowest car on the grid. Bottas got around Magnussen. Now we've definitely got a little bit closer. We're just getting within 1 second as we're about to begin the final lap. But the DRS, this is the only time we're going to get it. It's going to allow us to close up on them. Maybe, just maybe, we make a push. What are they at? 22%? As we hit 30. We're going to go aggressive for this last lap. Might as well.
Copy.
Can we move forward on the final lap? As these guys are way down to 20%, and we're at 28. We've caught up to Magnussen. Only a handful of corners left to go, though, so not very many overtaking opportunities. Let's see how we are all over the back of him. He's just getting real wide. There's somebody with a puncture. It's a Red Bull. It took us the longest to get around him, though, so we gained 1 position, but Sainz does not make it to the end of the race as he punctures in the final moments. That's a P13 for Sargent. That's still a good result. We probably had Magnussen,
yes,
otherwise we would have been P13 anyway.
P13. On target.
Florsch is not going to catch Sainz, though. Sainz and his puncture is still way ahead of her. Still P18 for her. Not a bad result.
Checker flag ahead of you. P18.
Here on the outskirts of Doha, the excitement continues to build as we approach the Qatar Grand Prix. And for Lando Norris, this is another chance to see what he can do in this car.
They've done so well to secure a P3 grid position. Can they turn this into a podium finish, though?
But there's no more time left. We've got a race on our hands. We're about to get going here in Qatar. It's lights out and away we go.
Race proper. Florsch starting from 16th. Sargent from P11, but already down to P12 off the line. Soft, medium, medium is strategy today. Going more aggressive. We see a lot of cars, though, opting for the softs as well. Saving that extra set of tires, I think, could help us out, but everybody opted for that. It didn't work out for Sainz. We saw other cars really fall off that cliff, so we don't want to push these very long. The degradation is fast, and the off the cliff is really bad. Fuel recovery seemed fairly easy, but I decided just to underfuel by a couple of laps, so we don't want to be too aggressive with that. But I'm going to try to let up on the tires a little early, not go a full 2 laps pushing, just based on what I've seen. Leclerc already starting to move forward, carrying penalties, started from the back. Florsch now 19th. On to lap 2, Sargent's got a little cushion behind with De Vries struggling to keep pace a little bit. That's going to give me a chance. That's going to give me an opportunity to ease up a little bit earlier here on the lap. We are through sector 1 now. I'm going to wait a couple more corners and then ease off. See, we're just starting to overheat a little bit. Starting to back off before we overheat too much more. Florsch, we're going to do the same here in a moment. She's down to P20. We'll finish the lap before we ease off in the other manners. Fuel and battery empty. Uses DRS to get back ahead, back into P11. Their problem is they are 1.4 down on Bottas. But gaps are starting to open in the field. One big DRS train is no longer the thing. And we're already starting to save some fuel. 3.8. 50 laps to recover it. Nearly a 10th per lap. Should make it fairly easy to get it back over the course of the race. But for that little stretch, 2 laps, we've only recovered 1/10. There's that second 10th coming right as you cross line. It's not quite 1/10 per lap, but it's not too far from it. Pit window has already entered. Those on the softs are going to be pitting pretty early. They don't last long. It's lap 13. Not many cars have pit just yet, so this is going to give us a chance to undercut a little bit Our position was nice. We're holding that position. We're coming up on that 30% as Sargent dives off into the pits for the first of 2 stops today. First of 4 as a team. We had that one mistake last time, which is going to add some fatigue. So there is a chance that the pit crew is going to be a little bit off of it today. First stop's good, though. 2.4. It's a nice one. Flourish also down pit road. Not too far behind the field, but she's already got some distance between her and others. I saw them on pit road, so she's not crazy far behind. 2.514. It's a good start. Good start. First 2 stops are both good. 1 more to go each. 18 laps, we've recovered about 0.7. So it's less than half per Albin with a spin. So we're settled. We're on mediums. We should have some decent pace over some others right now. Chance to undercut. Right now we're P14. Leclerc has made enough progress now to get ahead of Sargent, but has he already pit? He has already pit, so he undercut us. Everyone behind us has already pit. But ahead you still have all of the front 8 plus Gio. Russell, the first car that has already pit. So 9 cars have yet to pit, and we were behind pretty much all of them. So it was almost all front runners. It was almost all cars behind us that pit early. It did drop us down the order slightly, but not too far here. We'll see how things transpire, though, once all these guys on the mediums get their pit stops out of the way and start their alternate strategy. Does the undercut work out for us or not? Well, we'll find out soon enough. Pourchaire, Piastri both pitting. It's only been a couple laps at this point, so I doubt that we have undercut those guys. It's more like Gio being the one real option. There you go. They exit pit road just ahead of us. Pourchaire on softs ahead of us. Fastest lap. Sainz gets around. No surprise. He's got better pace than we have. 2 more cars pitting. They both come out ahead, so we're still P13 now on track. And I think that's probably really right about where we stand, other than Pourchaire could be putting himself in a bit of a spot of bother. Because those softs aren't going to last very long, and he's nowhere near having what he needs to go the distance. So he could be pitting early for hards and then struggling for pace. De Vries runs wide, so he was the close one behind us, who is definitely going to be a bit further back now after that. And Albin starts round 2 of pits. And we're at 2.9. The fuel recovery that was so good in the sprint race has been terrible today. It's been very, very slow to recover, especially on the mediums. Which means the lift and coast is going to be a necessity. We're 4 seconds ahead of De Vries, but he's having to pit early. So we're pitting from the same position we were in last time, but had only just gotten there. Like I said, I think our virtual is now about P13, maybe P14. Sainz was out of position, 2.55. For Sargent, back on track, P14. Good to go till the end of the race. Can now aim for forward progress, down to aggressive till we get up to temperature. Meanwhile, Flourish, will she make it 1 more lap? She will. She'll make it 1 more lap. But lift and coast, it's gonna need to be a thing. We're just over a second ahead of De Vries. I think a lap of fuel here is about 1.5 kilograms. How is that gap looking? No, De Vries has gotten within a second on us. What is De Vries? Mediums that are banged up a bit already. He'll be an easy overtake later. Let's get the fuel right. She needs to conserve as well. 15 laps to go. Piastri on softs, but brand new. We're definitely in a better state than some of the cars around us. Albin and Joe trying to go the distance on hards. It's going to make their pace bad, but Flourish just not going to catch anybody. Sainz, Perez both pitting on the softs. That makes a little more sense this much later. But we're P13, right where we expect to be at this point. Fuel's getting right. We've actually started pulling away from De Vries. De Vries just used up too much tire too early, is having to conserve, and it's pushing him back. So P13 looks pretty comfortable. We're 8 seconds and slowly closing on Bottas, but I doubt we're going to compete with him today. Flourish, we're just going to keep her on lift and coast to save the engine a little bit. Meanwhile, with Sargent, we are nearly right with a handful of laps to go. Go ahead and go balance, see if we can't close up on Bottas to compete for P12, but seems to be a P13. Nice, easy, simple day, and Verstappen cruising to a 10-second victory. Ferrari, much better than last race, both on the podium. Multiple cars have crashed, chance to go forward.
There's been a crash.
Sainz is not showing any gap, so I'm guessing he's going backwards. And yes, it is. It's Sainz and Norris coming together on the exit. Norris runs wide, does not give space, but Sainz needed to tuck in. He was already beat. That was rear wheel, front wheel coming together.
And clearly then, not what everyone in the garage would have wanted to see.
Norris taking ownership of the corner, as is the rules these days. So, Sainz, P10, and continuing on. Norris hanging on to P5. Might carry a penalty, but it's not going to back him up. Sainz, though, is he carrying damage? Is there a chance for him to go backwards? Meaning, can Sargent maybe get Bottas and Sainz? It would be a P11. I doubt it. At this point, he looks like he's comfortable P13, and that's going to be about that. Flourish, a lap down on Sargent, but we've been lifting and coasting for quite a while, and she's hit a lot of blue flags. Just off pace today. Really off pace for her. No mistakes. Sargent has gotten within 5 seconds now of Bottas, but there's no reason to aggressively get after it here on the final lap. A little too far back to do anything, so we'll just cruise to the finish. In fact, let's go ahead and save the engine for one final lap. So that's Verstappen for the win, Russell for P2, Leclerc for P3.
And today's winner.
Mercedes do look like they've invested into the car here late. Haas have invested in the car here late. They've both come with recent upgrades that have made them that much faster. Alfa Romeo looks like they've had. Bottas has been a lot more competitive lately. So I think they've continued to add updates to the car here fairly late into the season, which is going to make them all a little bit off next year, as Sargent claims P13. 4.5 seconds down on Bottas, despite no push at the end. But again, what would we have gained by attacking 2 seconds? 3?
Thanks, guys.
We wouldn't have been caught up yet, and we definitely wouldn't have been able to overtake. So I don't mind that we sat up on that one. But P13, not a bad result under the circumstances. We beat a couple of teams today to the finish line, and that'll keep the sponsor at least semi-happy. Just 5 races to go here on the season. Championship all but wrapped up. I think the math is nearly complete. You get bonus points, right? We still have bonus points for fastest laps. We have one for pole. I don't remember what we have. Sainz only 2 points today, though, after his mistake. Sargent stays P12. Piastri pulling away a little bit. We're not going to pick up 5 points the rest of the season, right? We've squeezed in 1. P13 seems to be about as high as we can get these days. But nobody behind us is scoring points. So, like I said, P12 seems secure. P7 seems secure. And our job seems secure. So I'll take that as we continue research project after research project with just 5 races left. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. And bye for now.